I don't know if you've seen the Netflix show You Are What You Eat. It's kind of
Mm.
making the rounds right now. And I actually
Mhm.
put it on last night because everyone was talking about it. And I saw so many people, up in arms over it and what they were promoting. But, what I gathered from that is people just don't have a good relationship with food.
No.
They don't understand quality. It's
Mhm.
not about whether plant-based or keto or whatever, that the term you want to put to your type of diet is the one for you or the best one. What I
Mhm.
realized is people just don't eat quality stuff.
Right.
They were talking about, oh, conventionally raised, chickens are bad and this, that. So is conventional, farming with pesticides, GMO, monocrops, not regenerative, depleted soil with no minerals in it, right? It's like
Right.
it comes down to quality. It's
Mhm.
not the what you eat so much as what is the quality. And I think that's where a lot of parents get caught up on, what type of diet, low fat, right? Because that's a marketing tool. And diet is good. Diet soda is better than regular soda. It's like they're both crap, but I'd actually
Mhm.
rather have you drink regular soda, but just drink more water in general, right? And drink
Yeah.
more fresh fruit juice, not from concentrate and all of that. So I feel like so much of this isn't so, it doesn't have to be so complex. If you
Right.
start to understand quality in, quality out, that will
Mhm.
give you higher determination of repairing. And the one thing I'll say also about children, because I feel like a lot of people get that incurable genetic thing and just give up on children in a sense of, oh, they're going to live with it forever. I know this because I've spoken to so many pediatricians. My father's treated a lot of children as patients with autism and other things. They are the greatest patients because they're not yet encumbered with 20 years of toxic load.
Right.
They bounce back usually quite well. They don't have skepticism over certain things like, "Oh, me up. Oh, I don't know about this," right? And if they get that, it's from the parents who have the
Right.
skepticism and pass it along. So they're perfect patients in many ways,
Perfect.
that if you give them just the proper thing, their bodies are excited to get to homeostasis. Their
So
bodies
true.
just function, right? Haven't you seen the same? That given the
Yes.
opportunity, even though the children that seem, "Oh my god, this is gonna be big," can bounce through it quite quickly?
Yes, they are. I mean, think about this whole field of neuroplasticity where we've learned so much about how the brain adapts and changes. Like we're just learning that, but these parents
Yeah.
of kids with autism have known this for like 30 years. They're like, yeah, you can actually change the brain, you know, but they are children are so much more plastic, right? Like their bodies are so ready to heal. Like all you have to do is remove the obstacles to healing.
That's it.
And then in some cases, you need to go back and kind of rewire, right? Like again,
Mhm.
like for adults, they've already been through their developmental timeline, so like all those connections were made. So kids who were, had these environmental assaults in those critical developmental times, you may need to go back and do some rewiring.
Yes.
So, but you can, and they pick it up so quickly. They're so ready to heal. And the thing I always say to parents too, like when they feel overwhelmed, like let's say they have a 5-year-old who's a super picky eater and they just, I can't do this, it's too hard, he'll never eat. I say to them, there is no easier day to start these changes than today. Because the younger you start them,
Mhm.
the easier it is. You give me a 5-year-old who's picky eater and a 15-year-old who's a picky eater, I'll take the 5-year-old all day long
Yes.
because that is so much easier to adapt and change behavior at that age than it is older. That's not to say the 15-year-old can't. I have a great story of a friend of mine who has had a son with autism, and he was struggling, but kind of in the higher functioning area. So he was, kind of had some help at school, but was kind of sliding by. And then he started hitting crisis when a lot of times this happens during puberty, is that like a lot of the symptoms that were bad get worse. And so at 15, she decided she was going to do, when he was 15 years old, she was going to go work very closely with a functional medicine doctor.
Mhm.
And she just hit it hard. And she's like, that's it. We're just going to make all the changes. And between 15 and 17, again, intensive like diet changes and detoxification and therapies. By the time he was 17, he lost his autism diagnosis,
Mhm.
starting at 15. So it's not to say that it doesn't happen. And I get emails all the time from adults who have an autism diagnosis who are, again, more mildly affected because they're either verbal or they have, they're able to hold a job, but they're still affected. They are starting to realize that they can improve their health, and some of those symptoms they didn't like, this like the sensory stuff that drives them crazy, that can go away when they start helping support their body in the way that it needs to. So this isn't just about children. I mean,
Yeah.
we talk about autism as if it's a childhood diagnosis. Why do we do that? Because it didn't really exist before the 1980s.
That's
I
right.
mean, very, very small numbers, like 1 in
Yeah.
10,000 or 2 in 10,000 kids. So it is a childhood condition. But now you have the whole first wave of kids that really exploded in 1989, 1991. All of them are adults now. And they're on the internet and they're watching TikTok, and there's TikTok videos that are like, yeah, I changed my diet and my sensory symptoms went away, or whatever. So they're accessing this information too, which I think is they're the voice that we need the most, because they
Yes.
can speak as adults with authority. And there's another story I have of a great friend of mine whose son was diagnosed at 2. By the time he was 8, he had lost his diagnosis. He was very complex, and he had a lot of things. He had seizures and apraxia and all these horrible things that his mom had to help him navigate through. But he's now like 27, 28, graduate student at Brown, brilliant. He's an engineering student, has a girlfriend. And and we have a video of him talking about his experience. Like, he remembers what it was like to have the symptoms that they called autism.
Mm.
He remembers what it was like going through it. And now he's a voice for these
Mhm.
kids, and he wants them to know, like, if it's not changing who you are. I don't want to change who you are, because so much of autism is tied up with identity politics now.
Yes.
Like, you don't want to change me. I have autism and I'm proud of autism. That's fine. Nobody wants to
Mhm.
change you. We want to make your body as robust and healthy as possible. And if the symptoms that are bothering you, like the sensory symptoms, the social anxiety, the things that go with autism, if those go away, don't you want that? The thing I think needs to happen is these adults who've come out on the other side and can speak to what it was like to be affected,
Yeah.
and then to tell people what it's like to have lost all those symptoms. Like, that's our greatest inspiration right there.
Yeah. No, it really is such a message of hope, of course, and other things that parents need to hear.